Okay, well, I think it's a good moment now to, well, we start the discussion now to say something about what we are going to do here and who we are and what we're part of. So far we've seen something, we've seen Ian say something about the Dutch situation, so how we defend our coast, basically how we use nourishments to strengthen our coast, and Veer's explained something about the concept of building with nature. And the three of us were part of a project called Nature Coast. I'd like to say, well, to explain some more about what this project is and well, what we do. So Nature Coast basically comes from the name of the project, which is nature-driven nourishment of coastal systems. This is very broad. And actually it's a science project, and there's research involved. I'll get back to that in a moment. And our main goal is to understand the various aspects of a sandy beach. So it's not just sand and how the sand moves around, but also the ecology involved and decision making involved and the entire picture. And our mission within this project is to use this knowledge and to go abroad and see if we can apply it elsewhere at other sandy environments. I'll get back to that in a moment. So we use the sand mountain as a main source of inspiration. We've talked about that now. So the sand mountain is one example, but we use this concept as an inspiration for other sandy coasts. And we keep the concept of building with nature in mind. So using nature and the whole system to apply this concept. So again, the sand mountain. We're involved in this research project where various aspects of the sand mountain are studied. So obviously the movement of the sand and the currents and waves, that's one aspect, but also the vegetation on the sand mountain. There's vegetation developing in different areas. And important for Holland is the dune development, because the dune is actually a barrier against the action of the waves and also the sea level rise. And that's one reason why we nourish the beach, the coast, is to let the beach naturally grow along with the sea level rise. So we'd like to know how the dunes grow and how they stay strong. But also on the beach and the coastal system, we have all sorts of organisms. Besides plants, we also have small organisms with the shoreline and deeper in the water. And we'd like to know how these are affected by nourishments. And we don't use the sand motive for this, but we also look at our regular type of nourishments to see what the differences are. And to do this, there's all types of monitoring and measuring going on, because that's the only way we know what the sand motor is doing by measuring what's going on. So obviously at the top we have, at the top you can see a wave buoy, we have measuring wave heights also beside the sand motor. We do some experiments to see what the currents are on the sand motor at different times. We have a video system in the middle of it. It's a high mast with some video cameras on top. We have almost 360-degree view of the whole sand motor. Well, what you see here is actually the measured depth of the sand motor and around it, which is done with jet skis, as you saw in the video. And it's done every 2 months, so we've got detailed information of this. And besides the measurements, we also do model predictions. So with numerical models to see what the sand motor is doing, if it's doing what we expected, and how we can improve our models based on these measurements. So there's lots of research going on. And it's not the three of us doing this actually. There's lots of PhD students involved, and we're all looking at all these different topics. And they're all these different disciplines, but they're not separate items, they're actually all linked. And we meet regularly and we ask these PhD students, one of the first things we ask is, how do you think your research is linked to the other research? So for example, the movement of the sand, how is that related to the ecology of the beach? Well, we do all sorts of lines. And actually our role, is to actually facilitate this integration of the research. So we're in the middle of these PhD students and integrating the research to see how all these separate elements of the sandy coast are connected. So basically, we'd like to study the sandy beach in an integral way. So it's not just sand, it's not just ecology, it's not just groundwater, it's all connected. But it's interdisciplinary science, and that's what this project is about mainly. An example of this from the Netherlands is obviously coastal safety. As Ian was saying, a large part of the Netherlands is below sea level, so we want to make sure that we're protected from the sea, because, well, some of the biggest cities are also in these areas which are below sea level. And this depends on the dune development, so we'd like to know how do these dunes develop. And it's not just one discipline, it depends on the movement of the sand, by the water and by the wind. The groundwater, if your sand is wet, it won't get blown around anywhere, so we need to know how the groundwater works in the beach, in the sand body, basically. The vegetation, which fixes the sand above which holds the sand in place and starts the formation of the dune. Maybe it's sort of comparable to the effect of the seagrass over here, which fixes the sand in a certain way. And also, humans are also part of the ecosystem, not only as organisms, but as the people who influence the beach. So the decision making, like, well, it's not very clear, but at the bottom there's a sign saying you're not allowed to go into the dunes. If you go into the dunes, you get past and you destroy the vegetation, and the sand won't be fixed, and well, there might be a hole in the dune, so that's something we want to prevent. And eventually, if we understand the interaction between these things, we can hopefully get we can enhance the dune formation. Yeah. So a similar concept, looking at the beach over here. This is, of course, well, based on general knowledge, but it's specific over here. It's also an interdisciplinary case with different ecosystems, and we had a discussion of it already. It's not a matter of placing a sand motor here and the same thing happens. But I'll get back to that in a moment. You have different ecosystems. You have a coral reef and you have the seagrass, and with the sand which forms the beach is not delivered here by a river, as in Holland, where basically the sand is made of well, small bits of stone, which comes from the mountains further away. But over here, the sand comes from your coral reef system, and it comes from the algae between the seagrass. Yeah. So if you want to understand how this beach behaves as a system, you want to understand the movement of the sand. So where does the sand come from? How are the currents? You want to get to know more about your seagrass, how that behaves, and how it fixes your sand, and how it produces the sand for the beach, and your coral reef, of course. And again, the decision making. So how are humans placed within this ecosystem? So basically, it's really an integral approach to understanding the beach, not only understanding the beach, but using this knowledge to develop your beach. And the purpose for the development can be different. In Holland, it's coastal safety, so we want to get a strong, we want to keep that coast strong so it doesn't flood. And over here, maybe safety is less of an issue, and it's more a focus on more tourism, more recreation. And but again, you look at your ecosystem. Your ecosystem has a number of functions, and these functions can be used to reach your goal of how you want to develop your coast. So you might use these functions differently to develop coastal safety in the Netherlands, and over here you might use it in a different way to obtain the measurable properties of the beach which are favorable for tourism or recreation, such as beach width, for example, the clarity of the water, or different factors anyway. So if you look at it in this way, these ecosystem functions, you have to realize that if you intervene with one of these elements of the ecosystem, and you also influence other functions of this ecosystem, all these functions make up the whole ecosystem. But if you look at it this way, you can understand how you influence these functions, and maybe how you optimize these functions to reach favorable situations in the beach. And that's maybe more the scientific side of it, and I'm slowly already getting into the applied side of things. But what we're interested in knowing is how can we use this concept, not only to understand our Dutch beaches, but also to look elsewhere, to see how other sandy beaches, how we can apply our knowledge to other sandy beaches. Well, Jamaica is already on the map, that's where we are today. We also have other places well, that people are interested in this concept as a sand motor. Islands been to Lima in Peru. We've been in touch with in the UK, some beaches in the south of Sweden, and at the moment something going on in Durban in South Africa, and in Vietnam and Da Nang. Next slide. So on the left you see Lima, the capital of Peru. It's a large bay, and over there the city is actually located. There's a large cliff, got tens of meters. So safety is not an issue, but they would like to have a nice beach for recreation and the natural living. So that's why they're interested in this concept. In Durban they already have a nourishment scheme, but they're looking at how to improve this nourishment scheme. And in Vietnam they have a structural erosion problem, and they're also interested in looking at the possibility of nourishment there. And in the Blue Bay, UK, they've already placed small amounts of sand to see where it goes basically, and they also have seagrass over there to see how it affects the seagrass, where the sand is going basically. It's a pilot project, and hopefully they're hoping to find more money to be able to put more sand in one place to see what happens. And now the latest one added to this is where we are today. And this is the first sandy beach in tropical environment, so the coral reefs and seagrass involved. And it would be very interesting to know whether a concept like this could work in a climate or in a situation like this. That's from our point of view, it's very interesting to be here as well to see what the possibilities are. But just to stress what we already discussed today, this is an example from Lima, Peru. We were in touch with landscape architects, so they have no knowledge of the ecosystem or the physical processes involved. And they showed us this. They basically found the images of the sand motor and they copy-pasted it into this picture of Lima in Peru. So they thought, well, we'll do exactly the same over here and we'll get the same thing will happen. But of course the currents are different, the waves are different, the sand, it's a different system, the ecology is different. So again, we like to stress, it's not a matter of copy-paste, take the sand motor exactly the same shape and we're done. Everywhere where we go, especially here with well, like you already mentioned, the coral reef, or you don't want the beach to be very wide, and other hotels have to wait like 10 years before they have a nice beach, for example. There's different solutions to different locations. So that's what we want to stress. But what can we offer them? Well, we basically we'll have to explore the possibility of applying these building with nature solutions. And we have, basically, we have a whole group of researchers studying these sand beaches, so we have multidisciplinary knowledge, and we can use these researchers to get involved in, for example, studying more into certain case studies, such as over here. And besides the research side of things, we have a network of universities, we also have research institutes like Breakwater, but also private and public parties. So Breakwater was mentioned already, for example, one of the big dredging companies, but there's also Negril. They're both involved in the project, financially also. They support it, and well, there are other companies involved who are interested in applying this knowledge. So they're basically on board in this project to help us find new opportunities. Well, that's basically that wraps it up basically. There's more information on www.naturecoast.nl and Zandmotor, which is also the sand motor, but in Dutch it's .nl, and Negril about the building of nature concept. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I have one question which I wanted to ask from the beginning. This one that you did here, it was 2 kilometers wide.
Yeah.
What was on each side, how far did it go each side, out of interest?
It's still
I know, but what, I mean, are you,
at the
it's
moment, well, I think it's at least 3 kilometers at the moment.
each side?
Yeah. No, like in total.
In total?
Yeah,
so from the 2 kilometers you've actually spread to
at least 3.
3.
Yeah, especially going in this direction, which is north.
Okay.
And that's why it was also expecting to go mainly to the north, and that's what it's doing. So, well, yeah. It's also spreading to the south, but mainly to the north. And also the head of it, so the part pointing out to sea, is also, well, that's eroding. That's what it's supposed to do, and it's going to the sides.
And also the bits of water in the middle, did you have any problems with stagnation? It's always connected to the sea.
Well, there's two. So this one's connected through this channel. This one here is connected, which is meandering, and well, obviously it's getting further and further away from the sea, but it's still connected. And we expect that at one point this will go further away, and there's a new channel developing here. So it basically happens when there's a storm, the water goes over this part, because this is quite low. Well, a new channel develops. It's like a cyclic pattern. So it moves on, and then a new one. Some of these more often than other sandy systems. But this one over here, this one's closed off. And it's partially fresh. It's getting fresher, actually, fresh water. Because it's not connected to sea, and the sand is very salty. It was pumped up from the bottom of the sea, 20 meter depth. But because of the natural groundwater flows, it's becoming fresher.
Just one, I know you just arrived, but
Yeah.
have you had a chance to walk any of the Negril beach yet?
Yeah, sure. Yesterday we walked,
Okay.
not all the way, but one way to the south. And,
Yeah.
this morning we moved by boat, and we saw the whole thing.
Great.
Yeah.
Did you go as far as the those two piers that go?
Yeah,
the
we
ocean?
went
What do you think of them? What do you think of them?
But I think, well, I mean, I'm not sure how they fit within the system or what the purpose is exactly. I mean, it's difficult to say.
Because from my own common sense, I think those things are one of the main problems we have in this town.
Sorry?
From my own common sense,
Yeah.
I think that is one of the biggest problems we have.
Okay.
Because of how it's working.
Okay.
And what it has contributed by stealing a lot of the sand from the beach. So I think that probably that was a major mistake over the last 52 years.
You mean the sand filling up the channel?
Yeah, going into that channel again.
Yeah. Well, it's basically, it's canalized, I think.
It's one of the culprits of
The drainage of the Mars.
not really the drainage of the Mars, it's how it was constructed. And what the jetty and what it's doing there.
It's not actually allowed to trade in the first place.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
It's difficult for me to say. I don't know what the effect of this.
It's just that's why I asked you if you had seen it, because of what it's doing. We had what you would consider as mini what you're discussing here. We had small dunes back in the days when we were little ones. We also had small sand motors that were naturally made themselves. But of course that has all disappeared over the last 35 years.
Yeah.
Because whenever you had the storms, then they would build themselves, and the sand would take itself gradually, come back, and then it joined the beach again.
Yeah.
The dunes were there with grass on it also. Even along this coastline here, it was there. But I guess tourism and what have you caused a lot of these things to disappear. But I like your idea, I really do. I think it's a wonderful idea. But it's where to put it. That's the only problem. Is if we had that kind of money, because it's going to cost a lot of money. And I don't know if our politics are willing this year. But it is something I've seen some of this thing before. And Negril is unique. Our currents are different. Our storms are different. It's not like the North Sea and the East Sea and what have you, or your Baltic or whatever. But we need something, and we need it like yesterday. Whatever it is, we do need something.
Yeah. Well,
breakwaters.
Yeah.
Not breakwater.
But of course not. There's a project that the government trying to put together, and I believe it is not what we want.
Again, I mean, it's difficult to say exactly what the or a solution would
That is what I was saying.
This is just basically how we approach
Yeah.
the development of sandy environments by using
It's a very good approach.
the system.
It's something that some of our editors should hear about, but I don't know what we're told. Believe me.
I wanted to find out, I know you haven't been here long, but I just wanted to know, how much time do you think you will need to be able to give us a positive response? Whether it be that you can't do something or it can be done. How long do you think it will take from your research?
It's
Just a
Difficult-
guess station.
difficult.
A
Well,
guess station.
depends on many things, of course. First of all, we know well, we've seen some reports, for example. It depends on what data is available, what information is available on, how the system behaves, for example, on where the waves come from, on how the beaches developed in the past. And then if we understand that and sand might be a solution, for example, then we have to, well, it would depend on how fast it can be made possible. So, yeah.
So we're looking at maybe years.
If you pass the first stage, then it depends on how long you can actually get this done.
So you're talking about maybe a year or two.
It's difficult to say. It's,
That's why I'm asking, because we don't really have time.
I think you have to remember, sorry.
You've got a real feasibility study, let's say a pre-feasibility study,
Yeah.
to see what's possible to be done in a matter of months, maybe. So,
That sounds as
that would be like, how do you say, like a design or
I
a solution or an answer, but more sort of feasibility study.
It's feasible.
What's possible. Yeah.
Because as you heard, they are urgently needing some sort of response to the government. so that we can stop the breakwater that they're proposing. Because we're looking at, nourishment. So we need something very quickly, and I don't want something, I'm not saying that we need to put something just to satisfy that, but it has to be something that's credible. So if you're talking about a feasibility study in a couple of months, that's fine. I think we will be able to work with that right now. Thank you.
Maybe to put it a little bit different, I would call it a pre-feasibility study, as it's a kind of exploration on these kind of concepts. They're applicable in this environment. And the real feasibility depends on whether we can find some suitable sand that would require some pre-research or some borings. So then you enter the more commercial path. You have to do some research to gain answers for questions that you have. But from our project, we could do a pre-feasibility study in a matter of a couple of months. Also, it depends very much on what you want. But I heard stories that you want beach nourishment. But what is your time horizon? Do you want beach nourishment for the next 5 years to ensure a wide enough beach? Or is it the next 10 years? Or what are you as a community thinking of?
Is this different to beach nourishment in the program, where they come and they deposit that equally along the beach? Is this different?
Yes.
This is more sustainable?
It is more sustainable according to us, as you place a lot of sand on one location, concentrated, but you use the space of nature to distribute it along the coast. It means that you need some time, you accept that it takes time, but it goes with the pace of nature. And that means that that's the space of the ecosystem, which can bring you also lots of very challenging environment, except that. Of course, we've gone out on the boat this morning. It was like a lake, so it's good to realize that the major events come on passing by here. But really, like you said, we need data, we need insights on how strong those events are, and what you or what solution, let's say, can handle. Do you accept category 5 or 4 hurricane classified, then you lose indeed your reach, or should you also withstand such an event? Those kind of demands that you are looking for is rather important.
I think that there are many factors for this side and for the stakeholders to come together. It's just simply the kind of obviously funding, the finances, how much does the long-term solution cost that we say, okay, we would like to obviously, I mean the dream is obviously having beach that can survive a hurricane easily. I mean that's obviously, I don't need to discuss that. The question is how much can be achieved with how much money in what kind of period of time. And this is lots of factors that they have to play a role in that whole setup. And I think there is need lots of discussion after the first study or the first kind of pre-feasible kind of
Feasibility.
Thank you. I think this after that is done, and then the next bit of discussion has to take place of what the next step could be and what makes sense in our situation. I think there's nothing to say right now. Something to think about and discuss.
How long would it take to, let's say you came when you said, well, we're going to put this on the south side. You determine I guess it all will determine the amount of sand, but how long would it take to do the project? A month? I mean, once you start implementing, once you have the design and you're ready to go, you have the board, you have the pumps. How long will it take you to do? How long will the project take?
Depends on what volumes we're talking about, but I think in order of weeks to 1 to 2 months. It will not take more than 2 months, generally.
Your project in Holland, yeah, how long would that take you? Or is it still ongoing?
No, it was constructed in 3 months' time.
In 3 months?
Yeah. But again, that was done with the largest dredges you can find in the world, and there were a lot close by. I think the Caribbean has also precious vessels available, but probably not large. It could be lucky. And that's another aspect that if you look into, let's say, regular nourishments over the years, you can also think of discussing with Monord, with the dredges, that you don't actually need it before a certain date, but that, let's say, that planning could be flexible. It's for a dredging company very interesting. But then they can offer a lower price. So okay, we want to have, let's say, such a volume every 3 years, and you just place it somewhere in the 4th year. They could offer a lower price. So think about the maintenance contracts in that sense, or recurrence contracts.
Do you have any loose money in the Netherlands?
That's all we have.
I had to say that because we need some money badly.
So, question for you. When the sand is placed in the formation that we're looking at now on the screen, what period would it take for it to eventually spread out on the entire beach? In this bay, there's a 5-mile beach.
In a 5-mile beach with this dimension?
Well, what you would estimate would be adequate for us to build our beach. Using your method, how long would it take for it to equally distributed along the 5-mile?
It's not an answer you'd like to know, but we have to do research on that. because it depends on where you place it, how you place it, what the orientation is of the shape, and the waves, the direction of the waves. So we don't know the gross net transport in this area. We've seen some new reports, but it's not very detailed. And of course, then you also would like to know what happens with a hurricane storm also combined. So it's a watchful question, but we understand
because our concern is this, that you create something like what we're looking at on this screen. And depending on which position in the day is going to be placed, it's definitely going to put quite a large amount of hotel operators of their business. In that the guests won't be able to reach the ocean.
Because what I believe is that first of all, it has to be found out if the whole idea that way is feasible for Negril through the seagrass and the reef. So that
No, that's what I'm saying. I said that
at the moment,
this is really
and the second thing is it doesn't have to have that shape. That kind of different. It's I think that you are very, I mean, or I think the fear might be that it's just looks like this. It's not the case at the moment. We are far away from any kind of shape. At the moment, it's just the idea. Would this idea of having an engine work in Negril, a nature engine work at all in Negril? That's at the moment the question. We're not one step further from this. So at this moment of time, I believe it's a kind of. It was a great presentation, extremely inspiring, exciting, and I'm waiting, like what you say, about a month, that we get a nice news about what your outcoming. I think this is probably the point. I don't know, but that's how I feel about that.
Sorry, another thing I moved to this shape of this design, that this is designed to space in one location and spread along shore.
right.
Maybe, I'm not saying it's near, but maybe the currents aren't strong enough to transport the sand along shore quick enough or even at all. And you could reach back to the different type of nourishing which was done in the Netherlands, for example. I showed the different types in the beginning, where we placed a amount of sand offshore. And it's not the idea that it spreads along shore, but that it slowly goes to the beach. So maybe that would be a better alternative, for example. So the thing is, the bottom one. So we started off with placing the sand on the beach, and then eventually it was placed more below water, because that's where it doesn't only break waves because it's shallow over there, but also it uses the natural processes to go to the beach. So the thing that what I'm trying to say is you should think of it in a broader way, not only like putting sand somewhere which is supposed to spread along shore, but maybe this would be a better way. For example. So placing it more in the water and then come to the beach gradually.
But with Negril Beach, naturally, number three diagram you have here is what naturally happens here. Because if you go below the 1 mile boundary right now, there's a certain time of year when there's a sandbar. You walk into the ocean, you go deep, and then you walk back up, and then here you are standing in 2 feet of water. So naturally, we do have that kind of thing here, but as I say, it's money.
Yeah, well, also, we don't have seagrass, it's just sand.
Yeah, well, certain parts I think we do not know.
You don't want to bury seagrass, for example.
This part, northern part of the Negril Beach is lots of seagrass, but the southern part there's no seagrass at all. Other than like about couple, kilometers out in the ocean.
If it's feasible for Negril, and we become one of the pilot studies, I take it for Cosmos
So where do we go from here? Because we have a time limit. All of this is on a time limit. We are on a shoestring as we start here. Where do we go from here?
much for that. Maybe, yeah, something we have to discuss. Maybe,
Well, the ones after that, the correlation that the concrete cash.
Yeah. That's what I want to know.
Okay.
From here, but you can ask them, you'll have to ask us if you have a question again.
Okay.
Is that it?
It'll still be cheaper than a Breakwater.
Okay, I think we all need to understand that this is an initial thing. We're going to find if it's possible. First of all, we don't know if this system will work here. So this is where they come to see if there's a possibility. Now, if there is a possibility, you have to remember that it's a natural way of doing things. So yes, we might have to wait a bit longer, but the long term, 15, 20, 25 years, will be more beneficial. So we can't just look at next year or the year after. We're looking at a lot, and it's going to cover not just the beach, it's a complete,
Comprehensive.
right, look at it. And then also, I mean, personally, I don't know if it would work, but personally, I think it would be a fantastic thing in front of one of our public beaches.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be amazing if we had that in front of a public beach, but it all depends whether it's possible with the winds and the tides and all of that. So those are all the possibilities. But I think you have to remember that Deltaris are here also to gather information. So if we did get to do it in Negril, we would be used as a testing point for the rest of the world who have similar, am I not right here? It would be used as a testing site, so hopefully we will get it a lot cheaper.
I was hoping we could capitalize on that.
Well, I think so too. So, and also you have to remember that it's a long-term thing. I mean, our university students hopefully will get involved, they will learn as well. It wouldn't be just a Negril thing, it would be a Jamaica thing. That everybody, we
You must
learn so
remember, you
much.
must remember too that it was discovered that there is a massive sand deposit about a kilometer and a
Right.
half offshore.
So we
They
do
discovered
have
that.
We do have
probably
a
enough
lot of
sand
sand
to do it as well. But it's also the placement. They cannot tell us where they're going to put it until they've done all the research, whether we're even possible to do it. So this was just to come and meet with us, to hear the questions you all have. I know you're noting all of the questions and the worries and the considerations, and that will all be considered. And as Vera said, it's not just an engineering solution, it's a complete solution. So I think it's extremely exciting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's more. I'm trying to just put it in a nutshell, but is there anything more?
So,
Is there anything I missed out?
just to say that we have two sites already, Long Bay Park, because it's
Right.
recreational, and we have Norman Manley Park.
Exactly, I think it would
And
be
that's
beautiful.
either side, and they have, and it can be recreational. So they have
Exactly.
some background.
I can see old school kids coming down and using
Absolutely.
it, and
Absolutely.
nature
Yeah,
programs, and all sorts of
Right,
things going on.
sites there
Can I
already.
start thinking of monetary?
We can't think of monetary until we know if it can be done, and only if we know if it can be done, then we have an idea of the costing and the quantities and all of that. So it's really, you have to remember Deltaris isn't here. Their project is to gain information to share with the rest of the world.
I was just thinking that, you know, the longer we wait, is the longer we get in more trouble. You know, and I was thinking that the possibilities are there, that we should start looking for finance somewhere from now, because we never, if we ever put this project together, it's going to take us another 2-3 years to probably put finance together. And all I'm saying is that we don't have everything on paper, we don't have everything in black and white, but we can start feeding ours out where we can probably possible to offset what it possibly could happen, because there are certain elements in the society that are already sitting on $11 billion. And they're hesitant on doing the thing if we do not start doing something.
As I said, once we find out if it's a possibility, then we can, I agree we need to start from it, because even Van Gogh told us that we need to start putting some money aside.
Yes.
So I agree with you, but, you know, we need to work on that. There's a lot of things we need to work on in here. Any last questions? Anything else anybody wants to ask? Well, I'd like to... Say so? No. Okay, well, I'd like to thank Vera, Tim, and Arjun for coming. I'm hoping that you're all as excited as I was when I first saw the video. This is actually the third time I've seen it. I'm so impressed with it. And I'd really like to thank you for coming and inspiring us. You brought up a lot of the areas that we feel very strongly about, which is the complete looking at nature as a complete thing and not as an individual bits and pieces. And I think that's what is just as exciting as the sandwich, is the governance and everything else that comes with it. That is important for Jamaica, Negril, but also for the rest of the world. So I think that's a very, very exciting concept, and I hope we can grow with it, and I hope we can get our government to become more inclusive and aware of these things. So, thank you very much, and thank you all.